Have you ever stared into the rain and felt like it was staring back at you? Not just watching, but hiding something. Something just out of reach, just behind the blur of water on glass. That night, the storm wasn't just background noise. It was a presence. Heavy, loud, alive in a way that made the walls feel thinner, like the outside was trying to press in. The sky was a dark, endless gray, and the trees bent under the wind like they were trying to crawl away from something. I remember sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, a half-drunk cup of tea on the table beside me. I had planned to spend the weekend alone, tucked away in this small cabin just off the main road, thinking it would be peaceful. I wanted the quiet. I needed it. But the quiet didn't come. Not really. Instead, I got this feeling. It started out subtle, like the moment when a song changes key and you don't notice it right away, but your body does. I kept glancing at the window, not even sure why. Just a tug in my gut, pulling my eyes toward it. And that's when it hit me. There's a difference between being alone and feeling watched. I didn't see anything. Not yet. But something in the rain had changed. It was like the air had shifted, and even the storm was holding its breath. Looking back now, I think that was the exact moment everything started. I wasn't supposed to be alone that night. That's the part that still unsettles me the most. Originally, a friend of mine was meant to join me at the cabin. A little weekend getaway to reset, unplug, and just get away from everything. We'd planned it weeks in advance, but the day before she canceled. Something about a last-minute work call, and she promised to make it up to me later. I told her it was fine, that I could use the time alone anyway. I lied. The truth is, I was already feeling a bit on edge even before I arrived. Life had been chaotic, bad sleep, too many responsibilities piling up, and this constant hum of anxiety I couldn't shake. I thought solitude would help, that maybe in the stillness I'd find some clarity. But the stillness turned out to be something else entirely. From the moment I unlocked the door, the cabin felt off. It wasn't anything obvious. The lights worked, the space was clean, the heat kicked on just fine. But it was too quiet, not peaceful, unnatural. No rustling trees, no distant traffic, not even birdsong. Just this dead silence, like the world outside had pressed pause. I should have turned around right then. Left, driven home, blamed the weather. But I didn't. I stayed. Maybe because I didn't want to admit I was scared. Maybe because I thought I was imagining things. But that decision to stay alone in that place still haunts me. It started so subtly, I almost didn't notice it. That creeping sensation, like a pair of eyes, was fixed on me from somewhere I couldn't quite see. Have you ever been alone yet felt the undeniable weight of someone's gaze? Not imagined. Felt that heavy, invisible pressure that makes the hairs on your neck stand up and your stomach twist without reason. I was sitting by the window, the rain still pounding against the glass when it happened. I hadn't moved in a while, just quietly watching the storm, letting my thoughts drift. And then, out of nowhere, I froze. My breath caught in my chest. No sound, no movement, just this sudden horrible certainty that I wasn't alone. I didn't hear footsteps. There was no knock, no shadow, no shape I could point to. But I knew. My eyes scanned the trees beyond the yard. Just rain. Just wind, or so I kept telling myself. But my gut wouldn't listen. My hands were cold. My heart started racing faster than it should have. I tried to shake it off, tried to be logical. Maybe it was the isolation. Maybe I was just tired. But that feeling didn't leave. It clung to me like the damp air in the room. I got up, turned on more lights, even played some music to drown the silence. But none of it helped. Because deep down, I knew something was there, watching, waiting. And it hadn't even shown itself yet. I saw him for the first time just after midnight. I remember the time exactly because I had checked the clock 3 times in the span of 5 minutes, hoping it was later, hoping the night was closer to being over. The storm outside was still relentless, and I'd finally given up trying to sleep. I was walking through the hallway, headed to the kitchen for some water, when something made me glance toward the front window. And there he was, a figure, a man, just standing in the rain, not moving, not waving, just there, right at the edge of the tree line, barely visible through the sheets of water pouring down. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. My mind couldn't catch up with what my eyes were seeing. He wasn't wearing a hood or using an umbrella. He just stood there, fully exposed to the cold and the storm, like he didn't even feel it. At first, I thought maybe he was lost. Maybe his car had broken down and he needed help. But why wouldn't he call out? Why wouldn't he approach the house? Why would he just stand there like that? I stared at him, frozen, and he stared back, or at least it felt like he did. I couldn't see his eyes, not through the rain and the darkness, but I knew he was looking straight at me, not the house. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then I blinked, and just like that, he was gone. At first, I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe the storm was playing tricks on my eyes or shadows shifting in the rain. Maybe it was just a neighbor taking a late-night walk or someone passing by on the road. I told myself to calm down, to not let fear twist my mind into imagining things that weren't there. After all, how often do you see someone just standing silently in a storm, drenched and unmoving? It didn't make sense. I kept checking the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of a car driving away, or the figure disappearing into the night. But night after night, the same thing happened. The figure was back, always in the same place, just beyond the edge of the trees, watching. Not moving, not signaling, not doing anything except standing there, silent and still. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone was homeless, seeking shelter or warmth. Maybe it was a prankster or a stalker, but not necessarily dangerous. Maybe I was overreacting because I was alone. I even told a few friends, and their responses were a mix of concern and jokes about my imagination running wild. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was something else entirely. Something colder, something waiting. Every night as the rain fell harder and the wind picked up, that figure would be there, unmoved by the storm, watching me. And no matter how much I told myself to ignore it, I knew I couldn't. Each night that followed, the figure returned like clockwork, as if bound to some invisible schedule only it knew. I began to notice a pattern, always appearing just after midnight, standing in the same spot at the edge of the trees, completely still despite the rain beating down relentlessly. It wasn't just occasional anymore, it became a nightly ritual. The consistency made it even more unsettling. Whoever or whatever it was didn't flinch, didn't take shelter, didn't move closer or farther away, just watched. I started timing my own movements around it, feeling trapped inside my own home. Simple things became impossible. Walking to the kitchen, letting the dog out, or even stepping outside to check the locks. I tried to capture it on my phone, but the darkness and rain obscured every shot. It was like the figure existed just beyond the lens, haunting the edges of every picture I took. Friends told me to call the police, to report a possible trespasser, but when I did, the officers found nothing, no footprints, no signs of anyone hiding nearby. That only made me question my own sanity more. Was this figure real? Was it a ghost? Was it some twisted nightmare born from my loneliness and fear? Every night, no matter how much I wanted to believe it was over, it returned, silent and unmoving, as if the rain itself had given it life. And with each passing night, my sense of safety slipped further away. What made it even more disturbing was how the figure never reacted. No matter what I did, it remained motionless, like a statue carved from shadow and rain. I tried everything, turning on all the lights, banging on the windows, even shouting out to whoever or whatever was out there, but there was no response, no movement, no sound. Just that cold, unwavering stare from the darkness. One night, I left a flashlight on the porch aimed right at the spot where it always stood. The beam cut through the rain, illuminating the wet grass and the twisted branches. For a moment, I thought the figure would vanish, maybe flee from the light. But it didn't. Instead, it stayed soaking wet, staring as if it welcomed the attention. It was as if it wanted me to see it, but not to come closer. The stillness was the worst part. It wasn't just silence. It was a presence so heavy it pressed against my chest. The kind of presence that makes your skin crawl and your mind race with the worst possibilities. I kept wondering why someone would stand out there in the rain night after night without moving or speaking. What were they waiting for? What did they want? And no matter how many times I asked myself these questions, there were no answers. Just that unyielding figure, watching patiently, never blinking, never moving, like it was part of the storm itself. After those first few nights, strange things started happening around the cabin. Things that made it clear I wasn't just imagining the figure in the rain. One morning, I woke up to find muddy footprints pressed into the soft earth just beneath the window. They led away into the shadows of the trees, but not back toward any road or path. It was like whoever had been there was coming from nowhere and disappearing into nowhere. Then there were the lights. The cabin's old wiring flickered unpredictably. Sometimes when the wind howled the loudest, sometimes when the rain hit the windows hardest. At first, I blamed the storm, but the flickering started happening even on clearer nights, always at the same time, just after midnight. Even more unsettling were the doors. One morning, I found the back door slightly ajar. I was sure I had locked it before bed. There was no sign of forced entry, no broken locks or splintered wood. Just the door, open just enough to let the cold air in. I checked every lock after that, double and triple checking, but it happened again. Each of these small incidents chipped away at my sense of safety. It was like the stranger wasn't content with just watching anymore. He, or whatever it was moving closer, finding ways in without me knowing. I felt trapped, terrified that every sound in the night was a warning. I was no longer alone, even if I couldn't see him. And that made every night feel like a countdown to something I couldn't stop. The most terrifying moment came when I finally had no choice but to face the presence directly. One night, as the rain hammered against the windows and the wind screamed through the trees, I was sitting near the front window, trying to calm my nerves. Suddenly, I heard a sharp tapping on the glass, slow, deliberate, almost like someone was trying to get my attention. I froze. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure it would burst. The tapping came again, louder this time, echoing through the silent house. I swallowed hard and slowly turned toward the window, my hands trembling. Through the sheets of rain, I saw the figure standing there, closer than ever before. His face was still hidden in shadow, but I could make out the outline of a person drenched, his eyes locked onto mine. For what felt like an eternity, we just stared at each other. I could barely breathe, couldn't tear my eyes away. It was as if he knew something about me, something he was waiting to reveal. The tapping stopped. The rain kept falling, but the house felt colder than ever. Then, as suddenly as he appeared, the figure stepped back into the darkness and vanished into the night. That moment changed everything. It wasn't just a stranger watching anymore. It was something personal, something real. Something that wanted me to know it was there, and that it wasn't going away. After that terrifying night, I knew I couldn't face the situation alone. I called the police and told them everything. The rain, the figures standing silently outside, the tapping on the window, and the strange occurrences that had been escalating. I expected them to take it seriously, to send someone out quickly. But what happened next only added to my growing fear. The officers arrived late in the evening, flashlights cutting through the rain as they carefully searched the area. They walked the perimeter, checked the woods, and even scoured the driveway. But there was no sign of anyone, no footprints beyond the muddy ones I had already found, no dropped items, nothing. It was as if the stranger had never existed. They told me they found no evidence of trespassing or danger, and suggested it might be an animal or simply a trick of the light and weather. I wanted to believe them. I really did. But deep down, I knew what I saw was real. The police report felt like a thin shield against something far darker lurking just beyond my sight. Their visit didn't stop the figure from returning either. If anything, after the police left, it felt more emboldened, more present. It was like it was watching not just me, but watching me reach out for help and dismissing it. The uncertainty gnawed at me every night, making me question what was real and what was lurking just beyond the storm. That final night is burned into my memory like a scar. The rain was heavier than ever, hammering against the roof and windows, and the wind howled through the trees like a warning. I'd been on edge all evening, every shadow and sound twisting into something sinister in my mind. But I thought maybe, just maybe, it would end. Maybe the stranger would finally disappear. Around midnight, I was sitting by the window again, clutching a blanket tightly around me when I saw movement closer than before. The figure wasn't at the tree line this time. He was standing right at the edge of the porch, water dripping from his clothes onto the wooden steps. His face was still hidden, but this time I could feel the weight of his presence, thick and suffocating. My heart raced, panic flooding every nerve. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body was frozen, trapped by fear. The stranger lifted his head slowly, as if acknowledging me personally, and I could swear I heard a whisper carried by the wind, though the words were impossible to make out. I called the police again, but this time my voice was shaking so badly, they asked if I was safe. I wasn't sure. The line went dead before I could say anything else. When I looked back, the figure was gone, vanished into the storm as if he was never there. After that night, I left. I never went back to the cabin. But every time it rains like that, I remember, and the fear comes rushing back, as real as the first time I saw those eyes watching me through the storm. Even now, years later, the memory of that stranger standing silently in the rain haunts me. It's a reminder that some fears aren't born from imagination. They come from real moments that shake you to your core. Maybe you'll think it was a prank or someone lost or just a trick of the mind. But deep down, I know what I felt was something far darker. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this: trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, even if you can't see it, hear it, or prove it, don't ignore it. That quiet warning inside you, it might just be the difference between safety and danger. So next time you're alone on a rainy night and you think you're truly alone, look again. Because sometimes someone or something is watching, and sometimes they know your name. Stay safe out there, and remember, the shadows aren't always empty. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this creepy true story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. I've got plenty more spine-chilling tales coming your way that you won't want to miss. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.